Hi, I'm Greg Day.
I'm Andrew Brittan.
And we are the creators of the platform.
My main jobs were director and camera.
And I edited and wrote the script. Our media production is the platform. It's a short film. It tells a romantic tale of a boy meets girl, typical light romance that sees the two main protagonists, the school students Mel and Greg, meet over two sides of a platform. Greg instantly falls for Melanie and tries to get her attention. However, because of the large platform, he knows it'd be wrong to shout, so decides to communicate by notes. And as Mel starts to reply, Greg becomes happier and thinks he has a chance, basically. And this is until the final note, as Greg lifts the page and he is instead greeted by a train pulling away from the platform, which will end their very short relationship. After the train has pulled away, we see Greg standing on the other side of the platform. His hopes have been destroyed of seeing her. However, like any other stereotypical romance, there is of course a happy ending, as Greg turns around expecting an empty platform. He instead sees Mel on his side, and she purposely missed the train to meet him and start their new relationship.
When completing initial research of other real media products, we found one common aspect that was seen throughout nearly all of the romances we studied, such as Notting Hill. The boy meets girl situation is a popular way of creating a relationship between two strangers. It was from watching Notting Hill that inspired us for our basic opening to our film. In Notting Hill, Hugh Grant and Julia Roberts simply bump into each other on an everyday street corner. We used this, like the same situation of boy meets girl format that was seen in Notting Hill, for our short film. We did change the location, as we felt that the platform was a useful and better way of making the two meet, because it includes the idea of separation. In Notting Hill, the two main characters can easily communicate verbally. I feel restricting our characters to separate areas in the same location built a relationship and feelings between the two even more because of the inaccessibility to talk to each other.
When creating our production, one short film we were particularly inspired by was The Desk. Like ours, the main genre is a romance, and it tells the story of another boy meets girl situation. It was the communication aspect of The Desk that heavily influenced the main body of our film. The Desk tells the story of a boy who was falling in love with a secret, kind of unknown figure. The communication between the two kind of blossoms after the boy writes a seemingly meaningless note on his school desk. When he goes back in the morning, he notices a reply, and from then on, him and his mystery lover talk to each other via these small notes, but unfortunately never get to see each other face to face. It was kind of the note-taking aspect of The Desk that inspired our main storyline. We developed and kind of manipulated the codes and conventions of the note passing in a way that suited our location more and the characters in our film. Instead of high school, we knew we wanted to film at the train station, so we used school notepads as the method of communication because our two protagonists were school students. We felt this would be an appropriate prop that would link and develop the production to our main inspiration.
I feel one way we challenged the codes and conventions of not just romances, but nearly all short films, was our use of dialogue. In all short films that we have studied, there was at least some aspects of speech. We changed this within our production and abandoned the idea of verbal communication. We did this for many reasons. Mainly for our storyline, we felt that if we used speech, then the power of the note passing would be weakened and ultimately useless.
Yeah, we liked the idea of note passing, and we felt it was kind of a useful and different way of communicating, especially in such like a technologically advanced world as well. It kind of brings back a sense of the past when people wrote love letters to each other.
We wanted to bring this aspect into an everyday present situation. I felt this simple idea was very effective at doing that. We also felt that the film's location did not suit nicely with the heavy use of dialogue. In a realistic world, Nobody would shout across a wide platform to a stranger.
Yeah, so having the challenge of no speech also allowed us to kind of look further into music and soundtracks. Because our production had no speech, we knew that the music choice would kind of have to perfectly match what is showing on the screen. We decided to use two separate soundtracks within the film. One played over most of the film, particularly the areas where the two protagonists were communicating. It was a gentle, kind of slow soundtrack with calming instruments. We felt this suited the atmosphere within the film at that time. It reflected the two characters' happiness, confidence when writing to each other. The second soundtrack was more mellow, downbeat, sad. We played this over the scenes where Melanie seems to be gone. We timed the opening few beats with the departure of the train, which ultimately led into Greg's depressed state. We felt the songs chosen, positioning along with the storyline matched the genre quite well, and it ultimately worked well as a solitary sound source. The need for speech was also kind of confirmed after looking at our client feedback sheets. In the improvements box there was no one that said speech was needed. This tells us that challenging the codes and conventions of short films by using pure music instead of speech was in fact the right decision.
When producing our short film, we also had to make two print artefacts alongside the main production. Our two chosen ancillary texts included a film poster and a magazine film review. These were created to help support and sell our short film.
Yeah, so firstly, to create a successful movie poster, we felt it needed to reflect the mood, feeling and genre that the film emphasises. This meant that we had to consider all of the aspects that the poster included: font, colour, image and composition. To start, we needed to use an appropriate image that kind of supported the main context of the film. We felt it would be kind of beneficial if we were to use a still screenshot from our film, and instead of taking separate images. This was purely because the shots from the film made the poster look more realistic rather than staged. Yeah, so I feel our final chosen picture that was well received by the public works well alongside the main production, and it kind of conveniently portrays the events occurring in the film. The picture depicts one of our main two protagonists on one side of the platform walking into an empty space. I like the composition of the image particularly. I feel it relates back to our film successfully in many ways. The large quantity of negative space that the character is about to walk into kind of tells our audience that she's about to walk into something unknown, and this then in turn links with our storyline as she walks into the start of a romance. I also feel the train station setting scene reflects a sense of love. The idea of going on a journey, not knowing where you may end up, relates to the journey our main characters are about to undertake. In terms of colour, our image's original colour was rather grey and dull. It didn't really reflect the genre of our film. The weather didn't help. We decided to use Photoshop as our main program for editing and creating the poster. Whilst editing, we thought that the colour was one of the most important aspects that would help link the artefact to the main production. We decided to increase the red hue and saturation of the film. This ultimately created an image that kind of reflected the appropriate emotions seen within the film of the two main characters. The increase of red gave the image a sense of warmth, love and romance. This was complemented by the high levels of saturation that enhanced the colours to their full potential, eliminating the kind of old grey look and instead creating the perception of romance.
The article is in the style of Empire magazine. This is a popular media magazine, therefore making it perfect for our production, as it already has the target audience to which we have focused our production to be for. Photoshop was used to create this magazine, where I created the template using rectangular shapes to create a border, which then carried on working around this to create the magazine. I used Notepad to create the writing, as typing it straight into Photoshop is quite annoying, as there isn't any spell check or grammar check or actually anything. The magazine links well with the main product due to the imagery being used. The images used were used from the main production, and we got these using still screenshots. The text that we used within this magazine was persuasive writing. This is conventionally used by reviewers to attract audiences to watch the film. That's if the film has got a good review, which ours has. When creating the magazine article, I challenged codes and conventions of the Empire magazine by placing short film reviews on the right side of the magazine instead of the upper left. Also, to match the theme of the film, I changed some of the colour of some words into a pinkish orange colour to symbolise love. This normally wouldn't occur in an Empire magazine article, so once again we had changed codes and conventions in order to suit the film.
To retrieve some feedback, we played our film to 10 different people. We made sure they were of different ages and gender so our overall response would be fair and accurate. Overall, our response was very positive for question 1, which was how would you rate the success of the production in terms of following codes and conventions of a short film? 5 viewers rated it excellent and 5 viewers rated it good. This tells us that overall our film was a success and the codes and conventions of a typical romance were seen and met within our production. For question 2, from the evidence you have seen on the blog, how well planned was the production? We displayed our blog to each viewer so they could decide how well we planned each stage of our production. On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being excellent, 4 people thought our blog research and planning was rated 1, and 6 thought it was rated 2, which was good. This told us that overall the level of detail within the planning stages was thorough and well thought out. It also shows that each different aspect of our film, whether it be location or costume, was considered, developed and loaded onto the blog to clearly show how we ended up with our final outcome.
Question 3 was based upon how the audience felt about how imaginative we were when producing this short film. One comment was that we lacked originality. This is because of the plotline being similar to other romantic films that they have seen. Overall, we did have positive feedback, due to 7 responses saying we had some imagination, and 3 saying that we were highly imaginative and had creative flair.
Question 4 listed 5 different aspects of our film: shot composition, mise-en-scène, editing, sound and music, and use of font and text. Once again, our viewers had to rate each aspect from 1 to 5, 1 being excellent.
Shot composition had good feedback. 4 people said it was excellent, 4 said good, and only 2 people had said that the shot composition was average, therefore showing that the audience feel that our production had a good variance with the shots, and that it wasn't too bland, it was more creative.
Mise-en-scène received a varied response. 3 people voted it excellent, 5 people voted it good, and 2 people voted it average. The 2 average votes were given for 2 reasons. Our viewers felt that 1, the costume did not fit the setting and genre of our film, and 2, the marker pens they used to write the notes were unrealistic. Other than this, the other votes and comments were extremely positive.
Editing had a contrasting response: 4 excellents, 2 goods, and 4 averages. It was commented on as average, as the audience felt that the editing could have been smoother, and this could have been done by using more fades between the clips.
Our response for sound and music was our overall highest rated. We received 4 excellents, 5 goods, and 1 average. We were happy with this response because sound was our most challenged convention. Because we did not use dialogue, we instead needed to find soundtracks that would replace speech and emphasise the romance within our film. Seeing positive feedback has told us that what we have chosen is successful.
Text and font had a decent response. 6 goods showed that the font was okay and suitable for the film, so overall our feedback has been positive. Lastly, the poster and magazine articles were shown to the audience. The poster was a huge hit, and liked by all, as it followed codes and conventions of romance, with the red colours and the protagonist of Mel being the main image. The magazine did have some positive feedback, saying it was good and fitted the style and appearance of Empire magazine. However, some comments were saying that the magazine was quite bland and there was some improvements to be made. Overall, the ancillary text worked well alongside the production and was very successful.
Your film follows the codes and conventions of a short film because it's a nice story in a short period of time, and it shows a strong meaning of love, which is nice.
It's got quite a strong meaning, I think, and you understand what's going on in that 3 minutes or however long it is.
It's got a strong beginning because it shows the boy falling for the girl, and the middle is cute because it's like them getting to know each other, and then the end is really nice because they get together and it's a happy ending.
It is quite clear to see that there is a beginning, middle and end, because obviously at the start Greg walks onto the platform and he sees Mel, and then the middle is kind of where they're like having a little conversation using the pen and paper, and the end is where she sort of like disappears behind the train, and Greg's like, "Where are you?" And then at the very end, obviously, he sees her and they like fall in love. Maybe, I don't know.
You could improve by making the editing more smooth to make the movie more free flowing.
I think to improve, perhaps make it a little bit longer and have more of a middle, make it a bit more detailed in the middle, and have some strong actors, because Greg was a little bit.
Throughout the research, planning and construction of our film, we used Blogger as our main source of collecting and presenting information relevant to our production. We found Blogger as a useful digital way to store all the coursework that we have done. It was simple to use and easy to scroll through. Blogger had no limitations for what we could do or what we needed to do. We were able to upload videos from YouTube, insert pictures, screenshots and web links. It was also acted as a useful reference point for our group to look back on what we have done, so if we were ever confused in the production, we knew what we were going to do, as we already had the information on the blog itself. However, one limitation that became with Blogger was that when we were using it at school, sometimes it wouldn't work completely at all, and the images would not show up, so we had to use a USB and do all the work at home as well to make sure that we were doing it correctly, as it wouldn't appear on the blog itself at school.
So to create the production, we used the Adobe Premiere software, which was installed on the Apple iMacs at the sixth form. This program was best to use because of the kind of many different tools and effects and basic movie making possibilities. It was easy to upload all of our footage, and from then on we could kind of start creating a rough edit of all the clips in a sequential order. When using the software, we needed to think of ways to kind of convey, exaggerate our genre within the footage. Adobe Premiere allowed us to kind of include different effects onto separate clips. For example, we frequently used the colour balance tool on nearly all of our clips. To use the colour balance tool, it was just a simple drag and drop process onto the correct clip. A menu would then pop up on the side showing a selection of colour changing scales. Our main colour change was enhancing the red and pink colours and slightly changing the brightness and contrast of the location. This in turn kind of created developed footage that had a kind of ambience of love and romance surrounding it. When we filmed, the weather conditions were kind of very grey and dull, so using this kind of specific technology within the software, it allowed us to, in a way, change the aspects of our location to a way that suited our production. Yeah, so one more common tool that we used on Adobe Premiere was the different fades. Like the colour correction, adding a fade was completed via another drag and drop process. We had to carefully choose specific areas within our film to include these different fades. By increasing and decreasing the length of the fades with the generic cropping button, we were able to find the perfect length for each particular section. The fades were ultimately very useful at showing the passing of time. This is particularly evident when Greg loses the contact with Melanie and leans against the platform wall. We used quite a large crossfade here that started by blacking out of the train going off into the distance and ended by showing Greg once again leaning on the platform with the train long gone.
Two pieces of separate music technology allowed us to download music onto our production. As we weren't able to use copyrighted music, we decided to use a free downloadable music website in Computech. This allowed us to browse through thousands of different soundtracks and songs that were categorised in different genres and download free of cost. To then import these onto our film, we firstly transferred them into a separate platform, iTunes. Transferring them onto iTunes allowed us to then link the two Apple devices together and download the track onto Adobe Premiere.
So when creating the ancillary text, we had to use a completely different platform that we touched upon earlier, Photoshop. Photoshop was a new technology for me. It was my first proper experience, so getting used to it did take some time. I find it very useful to emphasise the codes and conventions of a romance within the film poster. When using Photoshop, I frequently use specific buttons and effects that favoured our theme. The colour balance button, for example, allowed us to change the intensity of particular colours within the image. As our theme was a romance, we decided to focus on manipulating the red hues. This gave us the final resolve of a more romantic, kind of warmer look. Photoshop also allowed us to experiment with hundreds of different fonts that would ultimately show the relevant poster information, e.g. like the title, the starring Greg Day, Melanie Fielding. We decided to use one particular font, Gabriella. We felt that the kind of curvy, soft but simple style linked well with the genre of the film it is portraying. Overall, Photoshop, I feel, was one of the most successful technology platforms throughout the construction stages. The vast possibilities and effects it actually held allowed us to create the perfect outcome for both of the ancillary texts.
When researching, planning and evaluating, Microsoft Word was our main technology to work with. It is a platform we trust and have vast experience with. It is particularly useful when producing the questionnaire results and graphs. It links well with Excel, allowing us to insert data into the Excel program that was then transferred into the graph format and Word. Microsoft Word is an incredibly easy program to use that works for all tasks. Word allows us to insert images, change text, characteristics, and also basic image editing. We could in theory have used Word for every task, excluding the main production, because of its vast network of possibilities.